Be starting right now. Welcome to Charter Directors meeting for the month of September. We're glad you're here. Thank you for making time to be with us. And we will start our meeting by turning the time over to Vice Chair Cindy Phillips, who is here with us from our SCSB leadership team.
Thank you so much, Marie. I really appreciate you getting this meeting together and giving this good information to directors. Some of you who may have been on the UAPCS meeting earlier and are members of that association some of this may be redundant for you, but I think some of it won't be. The first thing I wanted to say is how pleased we are to sort of have an opportunity to kind of reboot the role of the State Charter School Board vis-a-vis its authorized charters, and to really lean hard into the idea of a bilateral agreement and how we can be supportive and how we can recognize that regardless of the varieties of education outcomes that our charters have unique to their mission and vision, that we can have an opportunity to support those unique innovations, those unique visions, maybe in a way that has not yet happened to date in the State Charter School Board's history. So a couple of exciting things that have happened recently. One is that with the help of our staff and the support of the Law and Licensing Committee, we've been able to push forward two extremely streamlined processes for small expansions in particular, and then a much reduced process for big expansions and satellites. And just so you know, because I know that our board hasn't authorized as many schools as were authorized in the early days of charters, but in the last 5 years, even in spite of kind of COVID and a shrinking market, demographic of students who are shrinking compared to what we've had in the past, the State Charter School Board actually authorized 9 new satellites in those 5 years and 6 new charter schools, so 15 altogether. So I wanted to first put that out there that even in another era, these last handful of years, we are continuing to authorize charters and satellites for those of you who want to bring us applications or who want to expand your schools into other areas. We are also excited about the opportunity to sort of, reboot the direction of the State Charter School Board with the hiring of a new director. We are in the process of interviewing very finalist candidates, and we will be bringing those, even the finalists from those interviews, to our board in a special meeting in a week, not this week, but the following week, because we do have a board meeting this week. And we intend to thereafter hire a director, and hopefully that director will be in place as soon as possible, maybe even as early as October, the beginning of October sometime. For those of you who maybe had an opportunity to read the job description, you may have noted that our job is a very out-facing job. We want our charter director, that individual, to be out in schools, to be at the state legislature, to be at the USBE meetings, to be directing staff, to get to know schools, to be supportive, to find out what is needed, to be real partners in ensuring that our charter schools are able to fulfill their mission and vision. In support of that new vision, we are considering a strategic plan this coming Thursday, in which our staff, our board, our leadership has taken the role, of course, but we anticipate that our board will be supportive. And this strategic plan focuses on priorities that are really quite new to the State Charter School Board. And in short, it's a board that's going to support innovation, support our schools where they are with the students that they have, and look toward ensuring that our charter schools don't have these aspirational goals, but have performance measures that meet the students that they have and that are embedded within each charter. We have looked, I've been involved in a reports and requirements task force, and it's been going on for a couple of years, and it hasn't made a lot of headway. Representative Pulsifer has really pushed to reduce burdens on schools in general, districts and charters, and we've been so grateful to her for that. But it's hard because everybody wants their program to have a report, you know, whether it's a legislator or a department of the Utah State Board of Education, and particularly when money is involved. But we're pushing back hard on that. But one way that we felt we as a state charter school board could kind of refocus ourselves would be to acknowledge what the Utah State Board of Education does and what it is their job to do constitutionally and in statute, and not mimic that. Be an entirely different entity, this authorizing, supportive, innovative board that lets the USBE do all the things that the USB is charged with doing, but then leaves us free to support our schools, to look at ways in which we can strengthen our ties with the governing boards with whom we have a bilateral agreement, and look for ways of sharing, actual systemic ways of sharing the innovation that's going on in our schools, looking for creative agreements between charters when one charter school may be struggling with any number of things. Look for ways to creatively enhance two schools by agreements that we haven't even contemplated yet, but that are out there that we could ensure occur besides just the transfer of one school to another, which is an option always, but there are so many things that we can do that we haven't done. And we've recognized that and have decided not only to prioritize the support of our schools and unique education outcomes and performance measures in our charters that allow us to measure you on your specific performance outcomes that tie and align to your mission. And in many ways, in some cases, these are the performance measures and key elements you had when we authorized you. In other instances, your measures have changed because you had a target population, and that's not the group of people that came to your school. Those aren't the parents who chose your school. And maybe you have 33% of your students receiving special services, and you have your charter was perhaps had an entirely different focus. Come back to us and work with our staff, and let's get that on the consent agenda. Those processes are also being streamlined. We're hoping that our charter schools that we've authorized will meet us partway and give us not aspirational goals, but entirely new performance measures on education. And notice I didn't just say academic, but education outcomes. So that if you're a school, for instance, whose population really benefits from credit recovery and attendance, and those are so important as performance measures and education outcomes when achieved for your school, we want to embed those in your charter in a very simple process. And then we want that to be what we look at for your performance measure when we look at your school. The USBE may come to your school and say, well, we need to put you on an improvement plan or turnaround. But what we'd like to do is partner with you to support you in the achievement of those very unique individual, I know that's redundant, but I needed to say it again, performance measures. So we're excited to kind of usher in a new era. And by the way, strategic plans come and go, and even directors come and go. So one of the things we've also done is seek and find, although I will not name the individual at this time, a legislator willing to run new language for us in the charter section that embeds for our role, this role that we desire to have, not only to differentiate ourselves from the USBE, let them do their job, we'll do ours, but to ensure that the charter sector of public education is the most innovative, the most respectful of parent choice, and that means parent choice in what they care about in education outcomes, and is the most healthy and thriving sector in public education. And so we have, again, sought this language change, and we hope that the legislature, especially because they seem with recent actions to be very supportive of parent choice and to very much value what parents feel are the most important outcomes, whether they take, monies from, for instance, Utah Fits All Scholarship, even to a homeschooling setting or to a very non-traditional setting for public education. That likewise we are able to kind of reinvent ourselves a little bit as a board in this process. And our staff, has been excited about having an opportunity to kind of create and re-envision and support the board's strategic plan. And again, this isn't passed yet. I'm being a little premature, but I think it does have the support of our board. And certainly we have felt that from our staff. We have felt that from any charter stakeholders that we've been able to talk with about this. And there have been many, and we feel the support even of the leadership of the State Board of Education. There are still fine details to be worked out, but in general, this idea that we are not trying to be them. So thank you so much. And I am just really excited about, I was a director for a really long time. And prior to that, an administrator in the charter world, and then an administrator in a different sector of education. But I'm hoping, and I'm doing, and we're acting as though we can become the kind of board that I would have loved to be a director working with. And so I just want you to know that there's kind of a sea change at the State Charter School Board, and we're all really excited about it. Thank you, Marie, for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Phillips. That was a great update. All right, next we have Corey Camp, who's going to be sharing about small school funding and the SOEP. So Corey, we'll turn the time over to you. We have Corey Camp on with us. All right, maybe Corey is not on right now. Let's see. Next up then, I guess we have Kelly Openshaw. Is Kelly on yet? We are just missing lots of folks, it looks like. Shannon, do you have any upcoming trainings that you want to highlight for a minute while I look at what's going next on our agenda?
Sure, I would love to. Give me one moment and I'll pull that up. I know, again, we mentioned this during our the UAPCS member meeting this morning, but it won't hurt to go over it again. There were a few questions that came up that I could solidify for you. Of course, the pre-operational training is tomorrow. Next week, we have a new board chair training. Our goal here, it's a 4-part training series, is to help new board members, new board chairs, particularly become really accustomed to their role and be able to facilitate well-rounded, well-functioning board meetings. So we're going to have a 4-part series there. The first one is September 18th. We have our administrative lunch seminar. The first one of the school year will be next week, also the 20th, and it will be led by Dr. Doug Stump from SUU. We're super excited to be working with him. He's a phenomenal educator, and this topic is very timely, leading with integrity. And we have a administrator retreat in Northern Utah, specifically in the Farmington area, September 25th from 9 to 1. And we've got Jalen Jones presenting on emotional and social leading. He's got some fantastic ways to help our leaders navigate all of the things that they are up against as leaders of our schools. That same training will be provided in Southern Utah on the 27th. So you're welcome to join us either way. If you want to come down to St. George and enjoy a nice warm Wednesday, we'd love to have you. But you're welcome to join either one of those. They will be in person. So if you're interested in that, got some links to sign up. Then particularly exciting for me is the ACES class that we've got this fall. The lineup again is, we've got some stellar presenters that will be joining us for that. The ACES course, 2-part, first of all, to develop the pipeline of administrators in your schools. Maybe those individuals who are considering going into administration would like to just get their feet wet and get a flavor of what that's going to be like. They then might also be able to help offload some of the responsibilities the directors have, be able to help delegate or receive the delegation of those things. The other part of that is to help those who are new to their role. So new directors, particularly those who are coming from district schools or from out of the area, to help them with the nuances of charter schools in Utah. So if you are, if you've got people in your building that you think might be good candidates or somebody who might be interested in eventually moving into a leadership role, this class is for them. If you or somebody in your building is new to an administrative role, this class is also for you. I did mention last time that we even had a board chair who joined us for the ACES course because she wanted to be familiar with the things that her director was dealing with. She lended some good insight. So we'd open that class to even your boards. And then last but not least, we've got a new director cohort that we will be doing again this fall. Anyone who is new to their director role in their school, even if you're just new to your building and you've been in a director position before, we'd love to have you come and participate. The first class, again over Zoom, will be October 19th, and Principles in Balance. It will be led by Diane Sally. She's been with us for years, and we're looking forward to her expertise and her guidance there. So all of these are open and available to charter schools in Utah, regardless of your membership with the organization, because they're provided by a grant from the state charter school board. So if you're interested in those things, I will work on putting the links to all of those in the group chat as we continue through the conversation. So if you're interested, we'd love to have you sign up for these events and join us. Again, the Northern Utah retreat is September 25th in the Farmington area. And then the Southern Utah Administrator Retreat is September 27th at St. George Academy. And anyone from the state is welcome to participate in either one of those trainings. Thank you, Marie, for giving me the opportunity to just touch base on some of those upcoming trainings.
Thank you. We appreciate that so much, Shannon. So thank you. We are still trying to get in touch with our presenters. So sorry that we are a little off schedule today. I did see that Chair Bowles hopped on. So I don't know, Chair Bowles, do you want to address anything with our charter directors for a minute while we are still looking for our presenters today?
Do you know what? I wish I had something really stellar right now to talk about. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. We're winging it right now.
I hope as you jump into a new year, I always think about, I try to, work on what can I do to change. I read a quotation the other day that said, if we change nothing, we do nothing new. And that doesn't mean you have to change something big, just something little. And then it said, people resist change, even if it's removing the bars of their own jail. And sometimes I think we get caught in what we know and do just because that's who we are, and we continue to do that. And sometimes it's good for us to just venture out just a little bit at a time. That's part of the quality improvement, continuous quality improvement, just a little bit at a time. Doesn't have to be big leaps. It's always good as directors, I think, each year. And I always do the same thing and say, all right, what little thing can I move without upsetting everybody? But what little bit can I do? What little thing can I adjust? I'm going to concentrate on one thing. What's one thing I can improve and work on? Just make a little change and work on that. And sometimes that's all it takes, is one little bit at a time. I think sometimes our greatest weaknesses are also our greatest strengths and vice versa. And I always like to be, I think one of my strengths is being innovative and being able to look down the road farther, which directors always have to do. You have to be able to climb the tree. I always climb the tree higher than everyone else. You have to be high in the tree because you're going to look way down the road farther than everyone else. And sometimes that also can be a big a deficit if you're the one who is always changing constantly. It can make all your folks nuts, right? If you're every day you have a new idea and you do something new, or you come back from directors meeting and say, hey, I've got this great new idea, we should try something. They don't want you to go to the directors meeting again, because then you're always wanting to change something when you come back. But it is possible just to do a little bit something new. Just what one thing can I do? And that really is at the heart of the continuous quality improvement cycle. And if you can just pick one little thing, and I suspect you all have, you could all, if I asked each person, what are you going to change? What is it that you're working on just to improve and lift and do more with? You each could tell me what it is that you're thinking of doing and how you would do it. And it just takes doing it a little at a time. So aren't you sad that you asked me, Marie? But see, I just—
No, I think that was a great thought,
Turbles. You give a teacher an opportunity. We talk in 90-minute segments, so I have a hard time stopping, but it's that little bit, just that little bit at a time. And knowing who folks are and how to do it, and all the kids, who are the kids in your classes and in your schools, and who are the families, and just getting to know people, even that much can say, all right, all I'm going to concentrate on is I'm going to really know families this year. I'm going to know their names. I'm going to know each person. And there are some who are just have that as a strength, and they can do it a little bit at a time and work at it and really concentrate it and do it intentionally, being very intentional to learn that. It's amazing what that one little improvement can do. And there are hundreds of others. Each of you have something in your schools. You can say, this is what I'm going to do. So best of luck during this year. And in doing those things, I suspect that you each, as you achieve them, you'll know that kind of success and be able to do it. Maria, can I turn back to you, or you?
Yeah, you can turn back. We are ready to keep moving forward.
All right.
Thank you so much,
I will
Turbles.
keep going, but I think it's probably a good time for me to stop so folks get back to other things.
No, that was
welcome,
wonderful.
everybody. It's good to see everyone's, at least all your names there. So it's good to see you.
Thank you. We know you're the right man for the job when you can give us a great thought on the fly. So thank you so much, Chair Bowles. Our land trust team reached out and they are ready to go. So Saved by Land Trust, which is wonderful. We always appreciate them. So we will turn the time over to Paula Plant and her team for their presentation about the school land trust.
Thank you so much. I'm Paula Plant. I'm the director of the School Children's Trust at the State Board of Education. I would like to introduce to you, because you will be talking to these people and I'd like you to know who they are. Holly Corus is our training specialist, and Kara Bennett is our compliance specialist, and also Kara does the distribution. So she's a great friend to all of you, right? She's the one that gets the money to you. So that's our team. There's 3 of us. We have just a couple of things that we want to talk to you about. And Holly, if you'll go to the next slide, I want you to know that we have recognized that we are probably not providing adequate support to charter schools in trying to meet due dates and complete responsibilities so that you can receive your funding in a timely way. And so we have been meeting with the people that you all work with Board Member Phillips, and Marie has participated with us, as well as Stacy Phillips, who serves on our advisory committee to the State Board of Education, and others to talk about what can we do to make the process a little bit more successful for all of you. So this slide is just to tell you, I don't know if it's warn you or offer our support, one or the other. But the changes are maybe at the beginning are going to seem a little bit like we're pestering. And that's not our intent. Our intent is to make sure that we're meeting deadlines. And so for each due date over this coming year, we are going to provide short trainings before the fact. Like right now, the requirement for October 20th is that the membership forms, the members on your councils be submitted online, and that a principal's assurance be submitted. And we're going to provide some short training on how to do that so that it's not confusing and it's not frustrating. Then we're going to provide a couple of email reminders, like 2 weeks out and a week out, just to remind you that it's due. And then when the due date comes, we will run a query to find out which schools have not yet submitted, and we will contact you individually and find out when it is that you believe that you can complete that assignment, so that we don't keep pestering. We'll just check back with you. So there are really 3 major due dates during the year. The first one is October the 20th, and we have a timeline. We'll send you a timeline, but the first one is October the 20th, and that's when your membership is due to be submitted online, and you tell us if you're using your board or if you're using an elected council. The second date is when you submit your final report, and that happens, it's available right after you come back from the winter break, the middle of January, and then it needs to be submitted by early in February. There will be an LEA assurance that you will need to complete before we will review the upcoming school plan. So there are several requirements in the law that says you need to provide training, and you need to do website postings. That means your own school website and some other things. And you would just go in there and assure that those things are completed. And then the upcoming school plan is due the 1st of April. And so we will follow up with you again then. So those are the 3 big due dates for the School Land Trust program. And we will be available always for you to ask questions. We're going to set up a couple of drop-in times where you could just log into a group page and be able to ask any questions that you feel like you need to, or call us individually at any point in time. We're happy to help. We are planning to try to establish some personal relationships by doing visits. Kara will be visiting with some of you as she does compliance reviews. And then Holly and I are just going to set up some meeting times where we can actually come to your school and learn a little about what it is that you do specifically. So just a heads up, that's our plan going forward, so that we make sure that we get the distribution out to you in July, so that you can make preparations for the following year. I'm going to turn it over to Holly, and she has some training that she's going to do, and then we'll come back to me because we've got one more important change that is actually not internal, but we'll actually need to go to the legislature for this change, and we want you to be aware of what that change is and how it will affect your processes. Thank you. Holly?
Paula. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what the council membership should look like in your schools. So charter schools, you actually have 2 options. The first option is that the charter schools governing board can serve as the school's council. But kind of the caveat with that is that the council membership always needs to have a 2-parent or grandparent majority. And this is because the School Land Trust program is highly focused on parental involvement. So we want to make sure that the parents of each school have a say in how that money is being spent. We have had some situations where the school's governing board is 2 parents, and that is fine. That meets the requirements of the council. If the governing board does not meet the requirements of the 2-parent or grandparent majority, or if they decide that they want to have an elected council, then it is up to the governing board to create an election process and outline how that goes. So in the case where we have an elected council, it is open to parents and grandparents. The election will be by the parents of the students that are currently enrolled at the school. So even though grandparents are able to run and serve on the council, they are not allowed to vote. When the elections are held, they do need to be in accordance with the procedures that are set by the school's governing board. And then in the case of a chair, it needs to be a parent or a grandparent member doing that role. And then, like I said before, any council needs to have a 2-parent or grandparent majority. And then I also mentioned that the charter schools governing board, they are the ones that will authorize the election procedures. And those procedures must be outlined in the document for the rules of order and procedure. And we do have a template of this on our State Board of Education website. I can get that link to you, as well as the presentation and the timelines that Paula was talking about. Paula also mentioned that there are some October 20th due dates. So this is for your charter trust land councils that are separate from the governing board. And by October 20th, there needs to be an invitation to parents to serve on the council. And that is something that many schools have already done, or they are currently in the process of doing that. On the school website, there needs to be a means to contact the members. It used to be that the name and contact information should be listed, and then there was a lot of scamming happening. So now we just need to make sure that there's a way to contact the members of the school's council, whether it's embedding their email address link, or, you know, Paula, what are some of the other ways that councils are putting that information out?
Well, in the past, they've just been, lots of times they've been PDFs or something posted on the website, and that's okay. We're just looking for simpler methods where a principal doesn't have to go to the website over and over again.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And so, with the October 20th, again, we want to make sure that the rules of order and procedure are updated. There should be a copy or link to the current school year's teacher and student success plan, approved minutes of council meetings for at least a year, and then the proposed council meeting schedule for the school year. And we have these little asterisks by those because we understand that there is a burden in the schools. And so if you use a Google document or some other application that allows many viewing privileges, but only a few editing, you can use that to meet those 2 requirements of approved minutes and the proposed council meeting schedule. For the school land trust plan, you have a school specific link from those public reports that you can post, and that will actually cover 3 of the requirements. It will show the dollar amount of the funds that the school received this school year. It will have a link to the final reports for the last 5 years, and then it will also have a link to the current school land trust plan. And those do get updated automatically. So it's not something that you would have to go in and change every year. You just post that link and then it's kind of a forever link. You don't ever have to do any maintenance on it. So for your charter boards that are also serving as the trust land council, the requirements are not as lengthy. They do need to make sure that the council membership and principal assurance on the school land trust reporting website have been updated. And this is for all schools. It needs to be identified as whether the board serves as the Charter Trust Land Council, and then make sure to review the current school land trust plan, implement the prior year's plan, or the implementation, of the prior year's plan. So how did that go last year? And then the Teacher and Student Success Act plan. And then I'll turn it back over to Paula now.
Okay, so if you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to put it in the chat or let us know. It looks like we actually have one. Yeah, so the question, can we remove individual names from the website or their personal email? Yes, you need to, the law now says, because we've had problems with scammers, right? Going to school websites and then scamming people. It's been a problem. So we went to the legislature, and instead of requiring a personal email or phone number, you can post a means by which the council members can be contacted. And usually your IT people will have a method that that will work. And if it turns out that you don't, I can put you in touch with the district IT people. They use different ones, but it's basically when you would go to a website, and you've seen this before, where you can send an email, but it doesn't tell you the email address, right? So you're sending an email that way. Scammers can't take the email addresses and send out massive scams. So that's the thought process. If you need help with that, let us know, and we can put you in touch with districts that have used an application. Let's see. Yeah, it just needs to go, any communication needs to be available to the council members, and they need to be able to then respond. So whatever application works is great. So the final thing that I wanted to let you know is that we've had a little bit of a challenge over the years. Someone who wrote the legislation for charter schools to do the approval process, I don't think understood the role of the authorizer for a charter school. So the law actually requires that the council, whether it's an elected council or board, that they do the first approval, and that the second approval would happen then by the authorizer. And the final review is with the school land trust team. As you're aware, the largest number of schools is authorized by the state charter school board, and they delegated that responsibility to us years ago. We ran into an issue, of course, during an internal audit, where the internal auditor said the same group of people can't do a check and balance. They can't check and balance each other, right? You can't do one review and then do another review. That doesn't make any sense. So, so the last few years we've been doing it, but having one of our team do the first review and someone else on the team doing the second review. And that also is not very effective. For those of you that have an authorizer that is not the state charter school board, when we contact them annually, they tend to have no idea what it is that we're talking about, first of all. And second of all, they tend to feel that they are not the appropriate people to make a decision about whether the plan is appropriate for the children in the school, right? They don't know what the test scores are. They don't know any of that information, and they feel uncomfortable doing that. So It's really a simple change, and it would just require the business administrator to do the second approval instead of the authorizer. What I've had explained to me is that business administrators largely are doing this already anyway. That usually a board will talk to the business administrator to make sure that what they're planning on fits within the financial framework of the school. So that's the proposal. It has been to this state charter board to kind of, they didn't formally support it, but sort of gave us their blessing to move forward. It went to the State Board of Education last Thursday. So we have their approval to seek a sponsor and move forward. The change that it will be for you is that we will need to be providing some training for business administrators because this is not something that they have done in the past, right? It's going to be new to them. And they're going to need to know, number one, how to get a login to the website and where to go to actually do that approval. So I'm wondering if you all have any questions about that. I'm not seeing any. Okay, so we'll be back in touch. I'm hoping to meet with you briefly in your regular meetings to provide quick updates to make sure that we are providing the support that you're in need of. Also, if you find or if you think of something that you feel would be more effective, we would like to hear about it because we want to be providing the kind of support that is useful to all of you. Thank you. And thanks, Marie, for putting us on the agenda.
Thank you. And thank you for coming on a little bit early. That was really helpful for us as well. So thank you so much to our School Land Trust team. All right. Well, moving right along on our agenda, we do have Kelly Openshaw from U Science. And so we will turn the time over to Kelly.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for giving me a couple of minutes to talk with you. I feel like I'm familiar with all of your schools right now because I was going through our new system this past weekend and making sure all of the charter schools were in there. They were all connected to the right places. So I'm feeling like at home right now because I'm very familiar with all of you. Let me share my screen really quickly. I'm just going to give you some quick information about U Science. We have actually launched a new platform this year called BrightPath. And I wanted to make sure you're all aware of this and first let you know you all have access to this right now. You don't have to pay for it. It's funded through the legislature. And so if this is a tool that you think will help your students and your teachers, counselors, this is a really awesome thing to use and you don't have to pay for it. That's always a wonderful thing, right? My information is here. If your school is not familiar with U Science, take a quick picture of my email. I'm happy to present to your faculty or to your counselors, your admin team. And if you have and are familiar and just need some training, reach out to me and I'll make sure I connect you with Paul Ashby, who takes care of all that for us. So as I mentioned, we just officially launched BrightPath over the past few weeks. It's been really exciting and man, it's going to be just a powerful tool for you to use. If you're familiar with U Science, you may know, for those of you in the CTE world, we came up through the precision exam CTE certification side of things, and a couple of years ago merged with U Science, which provides aptitudes and career guidance. And then we also acquired like a work-based learning platform last fall. So we've accumulated all of these cool tools, and finally we have them all in one place to make it very easy for you. And so I wanted to show you how you can utilize this with your students and the process. So we can begin with your students as early as 6th grade. You in those career guidance type segments that your teachers are teaching, there's an interest survey that they can utilize. It gets them into the U Science platform, helps support the conversations the teachers have. And then they can move right into 7th and 8th grade if you guys are doing CCA class in that time frame, some sort of career discovery. students can take an aptitude assessment to understand their natural talents. The cool thing about the 7th and 8th grade assessment is it does not fine tune too closely on specific careers. Instead, it helps students understand industries or career clusters that would be a good fit for them based on their natural talents and their interests. So maybe it's health science, maybe it's business, maybe it's manufacturing, but it helps them see what they might be fine-tuned towards. Then when they move into high school, we have them take a more robust aptitude assessment that then starts to hone in on more specific careers. New this year for our counselors, there is an education and career planning feature that really helps you as you're meeting with students, really start to mark and have a place to document the thought work they're doing on their aptitudes, on what they think they may want to do in the future, a place to pencil in classes they may want to take in the future, their ideas on college. It's going to be something that follows with them and stays in their profile, making it easy for you to keep track of and your students. For those of you who have CTE classes, of course, the certification element will still be there to help document and validate the skills they're learning in their CTE classes. And then we have some great connection points as well. If you have a work-based learning program at your school, you're doing internships or job shadows or career fairs, we have a place where you can manage all of that. And then we have a place where students can go view their colleges based on their aptitude results, based on their interest results, even their certifications. They can see where they could continue that education. And then ultimately, we want to show them employers that would want to have that specific skill set come to them in their future talent pipeline. And along the way, we want to make sure you are provided with tons of data to help make great decisions at your school as well. So real quickly, just a quick reminder of why aptitudes are so important and why we should consider those as we're having career conversations with our students. Typically, almost everywhere else that isn't using UScience, we're giving our students an interest survey to understand what they may want to do in the future. You all work with teenagers. You all know that the interests that they have are in a bubble. They revolve around sports, music, friends, social media, video games, all the things that make being a teenager really, really fun. The problem with that is they don't really know a lot of what's outside of that bubble. And so if they haven't had exposure or experience with something, they're kind of limited to bouncing around within that interest bubble. So when they go through and take our brain games, it gives them an opportunity to show the talents that they have with different aptitudes. This is an example of how we measure inductive reasoning. We have 6 items, choose 3 that have something in common. You probably have heard me talk about this before. This is one of my weak spots, because if you give me long enough, I'll find something in common with all 6 of them. Now, this used to bother me until I found out that it's not a weak spot. It's rather, how does that particular talent play out when we're looking at careers? Someone with a high inductive reasoning may be better suited for a quick-paced decision-making environment. Think ER doctor. But you may not want that same talent set with your accountant. They may need to be a little more detail-oriented. And so it's not right or wrong. It's more, how does it better lend itself to different careers? This exercise, if any of you have gone through the brain games, you'll know this one as the paper folding exercise, and you'll either love it or you hate it. There's very few who are neutral about it, but it helps measure spatial visualization. You have a piece of paper, fold it a few times, punch a hole in it. Where is that hole going to be? So we have a whole series of games that help those students figure out what their natural talents are. And then once they understand those talents in their results, we're going to be able to see how those aptitudes lend themselves towards different career clusters. So this is my son, Gavin. He took his in 7th grade, the middle school version. And what we found, you can see his aptitudes for different career areas and his interest in different career areas. So imagine if you're a counselor sitting with a student and you're trying to figure out what classes to take in the future, how to guide that student. Wouldn't it be helpful to know this information instead of, so what do you think you want to take next year? Oh, whatever my friends are taking, which is always the conversation, right? And he, my son, actually came to me, Mom, I've got 8th grade all planned out. I know exactly what I'm going to take. I'm like, oh, really? Yeah, I'm going to take all these classes with my friends. I'm like, well, why don't you take 5 minutes and go into your U Science and see if there's anything in there that, sparks a nerve or something. Well, sure enough, he goes into his U Science results. He starts getting into his profile, and I'm sitting in the room with him, and all of a sudden I hear, astronomer, I love space. He writes it down. Aerospace engineering, that would be so cool. And this kid that I had no idea those sorts of things were exciting to him, all of a sudden it opened him up to thinking about, I may want to look into some of these things. It was really cool because his older brother, who's in high school, came in and said, oh, you know what? There's an astronomy class at high school. You may want to take that down the road. But all of a sudden, I saw him look at the screen, look down at his class paper, look at the screen, start erasing, look at the screen, start writing in new classes, and he shifted the classes he wanted to take in 8th grade based on some of this information that he learned about himself in U Science. It's pretty cool. His older brother, I just mentioned, you can see his aptitudes here. He's got a great aptitude for architecture and construction and an interest. For my counselors, this is a great, when you see something show up in aptitude and interest, that is a great opportunity to start thinking, maybe a CTE pathway, maybe a career fair, maybe a student organization, some way to help that student go and explore these areas that are coming up in multiple places that show a student you've got the talent and the interest in these areas. And so for him, his process, he went through 8th grade and his results helped guide him into the classes that he took as he moved through high school. When he got into 9th grade, he took the more robust version that showed him careers that are a good fit for him, which helped him then align to the electives that were available. And as he went through those electives, he was able to cross some things off his list because he was like, I thought I wanted to be a video game designer. I took the class and not so much. And so it helped him not only figure out new things, but cross a few things off his list as well. So one of the things that was cool is through our relationships with employers, he found out about a summer learning program with Hughes Construction. Now remember, he's got that architecture and construction part there. So he applied for that. It's something they can do at 16 or older, had to do a resume, had to do an interview, the whole works. But using his information in his profile, he was able to put together a really nice resume. There's a describing you section within the profile that gives them keywords, key statements that speak to their strengths. Using his certifications, he listed some of the standards that he felt really confident that he'd learned in his classes. And as you look at this, the one thing you note, there's no experience on there. This kid's 16 years old, he hasn't worked yet. But yet he can really speak to the cool things he's learned in school and to the things that make him tick. Now, sure enough, he was able to secure that position and he worked full-time for Hughes Construction a couple of summers ago, had a great time learning about the construction industry, and really just had an amazing experience. Now, as he's a senior now, and as he starts looking into what he wants to do in the future, the funny thing is, these kids, I mean, it changes on the daily, because he actually came to me like a week ago and was like, Mom, I think I'm going to go into IT. So really, I haven't even updated my slides yet. But the thing that's cool about it is he's using those results to see different areas that he could be successful in, and he's always looking at new opportunities. So pretty fun to see him as he's growing up and deciding what those next steps will be. Now, I mentioned a little bit about the education and career plan. Just want to show you what that looks like. So if you're a counselor, you can go into this with your student and it's going to have a quick recap of their talents, their aptitudes, and then a little thought work for a reflection. So if you're preparing for a CCR interview, you could tell your student, hey, come in and have this ready so that we can talk about this. Which of these talents surprised you? Where do you see those talents show up in your life? Talk to me about what you think you may want to do in the future. You've favorited a couple of these careers. What could you do right now to help you explore some of those things? You're thinking you may want to go to college, or maybe you want to go into the military, or maybe you want to go right into the workforce. Let's talk about that and let's see what different options are available to you. But this is a place where you can keep that information right there. We do have a course planner where you can upload all of the courses available at your school so that your students can then start penciling them in. You know, I think about my Gavin who thinks, okay, astronomy, if he doesn't have a place to pencil that in, you know, by the time he gets to 10th grade, he's going to forget that he wanted to take that class. And so if we can give him a place to pencil that in, it might remind him, oh yeah, I wanted to try that. Then we have a resume builder. So if you have English teachers, if you have CTE programs, work-based learning, where you're incorporating a resume builder, we've got it built right in right here. And we help the students know where in their profile they can go find the information to help build a personal statement, to help speak about their skills and their talents. And it's all built right into the system. Then we also have a college planning timeline. So if you've got a 9th grader who knows they want to go to college, what should they be doing in 9th grade to prepare themselves in 10th, 11th, 12th grade? And you didn't hear it, but maybe you did first. This next year, we'll have everything. I believe we're partnering with Common App, and it's going to be freaking awesome. So we're getting there. It's going to be so cool. So we're getting there. Close. All right. So for your CTE classes, of course, your students will then be able to have all of their certifications in one place so that you don't have to find them and print them for your students. They're all available right there for the students to utilize as they're going out for job interviews, or if they're doing resumes or college applications, they can speak to the cool things they learned while they were in school. Talked about all those connection points, a work-based learning tool to help you as you're managing internships, job shadows, career fairs. I mean, the reality is like our resources are slim, and we need to be able to track those different students and where they want to go do their different things. Most of my work-based learning coordinators I talk to, it's usually like a spreadsheet and post-it notes is how they're tracking it right now. Now we have something a little more official. They can go in and they can explore all sorts of different colleges. They can soar all across the country and see all sorts of options that are available. And then they can also go and explore local and national companies that are interested in working with students in the future. We have some great support from the associations throughout the state who are excited to see this future talent workforce really understand who they are and how they can fit into our economy in the future as well. All right, finish up really quickly with some information on the data available to you. Today, actually, the Insights and Analytics went live today with the new platform. You can come in and find out all sorts of information about your students at your school, both individually and comprehensively. So some student-facing reports that will be able to be printed, kind of giving a summary of their talent set, and also give them some summaries of the different suggestions and recommendations that have been made to them. There's a counselor one-page sheet. If any of you have worked with us in the past, there used to be a 40-page PDF download. You guys, that's way too much. So we boiled it down to a 1 or 2 pager, makes it a lot easier for our counselors. Great thing to use with parents to help them get introduced to their student and find out who they are and what makes them tick. So a great resource there. And then we can start looking at comprehensive information for our students also. So we can look at, in our school, what do our students have the aptitude for? Do they have an aptitude for engineering or for health sciences? What do they have an aptitude for? Then we can identify those students and help guide them into the different areas where they could explore better. So a couple of examples of utilizing this report. And I know I tell this one all the time. If you've heard it, I apologize. But I had a high school up in Logan where all their students had just taken their youth science profile. And the administration said, hey, we want to send some girls to SheTech this year. Help us figure out who to invite. And so they used their data. They went through and found all the women that had an aptitude for engineering, tech, computers. And they sent personal invitations to them and said, hey, we're going to go down to SheTech. We can see through your youth science results, you've got an aptitude for this. Would you like to join us? And every one of those girls said yes. So imagine this bus coming down from Logan having this amazing experience at SheTech. And so then I asked the counselor, well, what was the bus ride home like? And she said, man, you know, of course there were about 1/3 of the girls who were like, yeah, that was cool. It's not really my thing. Then there were 1/3 that were like, that was really awesome. I'm really curious to learn more about some of these things that I learned. And then there were a third who were just lit up and so excited about the potential and what they had learned there. We've also used this information to get the right students into health science fairs or into HOSA, get the right students attending the Design Build Day or the Builders Day, where we're focused on architecture, engineering, construction. Even we used it to get students to Diesel Day, where they could find out more about careers in diesel. So many different ways, but now we actually know we're getting the right kids on the bus going to the right programs. Because again, with the resources we have to be really conscious. We can't just invite everybody to go everywhere. So if we can narrow that down a little bit, it will help you guys get the right students in the right place. Okay, so just real quickly to finish things up, I like to talk a little bit about why you'd want to do this. A couple of years ago, Georgia was piloting several career guidance platforms, and UScience was one of them. At the end of their year of piloting, they found statistically significant improvements in 5 key areas: self-awareness, self-empowerment, intent to persist, career exploration, and career decision-making. It's a lot of words that basically boil down to those students had more confidence and hope in their future because they knew themselves better. And we find that that plays out a lot. When we look at interest-based career recommendations, it skews towards social and artistic careers, which makes sense because that's the bubble they live in. But when we can show students that they have the talent to be successful in more technical fields, students reply, I didn't know I had the talent to do something like this. And this is a real quote from a real student. And it's so exciting to hear them say that. For our women, we know that women tend not to be as interested in technical fields. But when we look at the data, they have the aptitude for the technical fields. Again, helping them know, I didn't even know these careers existed. Let's expose them to something they may be able to do. Racial diversity. We had a survey or a study where we were looking at a group of students across all racial diversity, and we were looking at their interest level and aptitude for technical fields. You can see the interest level kind of 50-50, but when we looked at aptitudes across all, so much talent there. So again, helping expose our students to opportunities they may not have considered before. I love this. No one ever told me I was good at anything. So exciting. The final thing I love to talk about is this quick concept of 20 and 2. You know, as we think about mental health with our students and that connection piece, we're always trying to help our students feel noticed and to know that we care about them. But there's a lot of them and only a few of us. So how can we make that a little bit easier? I always encourage all of my teachers, my admins, my counselors, always have your UScience pulled up. And if you have a student who comes into your office or comes into your classroom looking for help, you can quickly type in their name and pull up their profile. And you can answer whatever question they come to you with. But then before they leave, you can say, hey, before you leave, I looked at your UScience results. I noticed you're a list checker like me. You're really good at catching errors in your work. It tells me we should take breaks when we study. Have you tried that? Might help you be more accurate. Or, hey, Kelly, before you leave, I noticed that you're good with patterns and numbers in your UScience. Have you ever tried Wordle? Those quick connection points, but the cool thing about it is every page of a student's talent profile has positive information. So you could literally click in there blindly, pick a sentence, and it would give you a way that you could connect with a student and have a quick moment, sending them out the door feeling good about themselves and just taking that quick moment. All right. That is a really quick overview. I'm just going to show you, I wanted you to see how quickly easy it is to log in. When you go to uscience.com, you just click on login. And then we've got it so that you can do it with some of the SSO systems, or you'll just log in. This is where your students and you will log in with an email and a password. And then it's going to take you to a profile. Your student's profile will look just like this. Your profile will look like this. The only difference, the students will not have this user administration level, but they can come in and they can see their aptitudes right here. It's all going to be right there available for them. We can go in and we can look at the education and career planning right there. See all that fun thought work that we can do down there. They're gonna do their certification testing, their CTE certification right from here. So teachers will set up the exam, students will test right from this platform. Then we have our education connections where they can go in and explore different colleges and see all the cool ways they can sort by programs, by colleges, go to that college planner I talked about. They can come in and they can see more about the career connections. They can manage all of their work-based learning experiences on that work-based learning tab. So tons, and then they can come in and they can see that data. They'll see student level data, you'll see school level data, and then you can also see student level. So that is just a really, really fast overview of what BrightPath is. But we are so excited, and I hope that you guys will take advantage of this. If you need to know more about it, feel free to reach out. If you need training on it to help you get up and running, certainly let us know. But we're really excited about this resource and hope we can help you with it. So any questions?
Kelly, can you remind us, is this something that everyone has access to? Is it something they pay for? Like, how do they get to this UScience?
Great question. So it's all paid for through the legislature. And so you all have access to it right now. We just need to get your account set up. So if you send us a quick email, we'll make sure you're all set up as an admin at your school, and then we'll teach you how to upload your students so that you can take it and run with it. So we will give you all the training and support that you need. And then let's see
Kelly,
what-
looks like there was a message, just says, who do we email?
Yep, I'm going to put it right there so you guys
Perfect.
have it. If I can spell, that's, typing, spelling, not my aptitude, apparently. All right, you guys, any other questions? Thank you so much for letting me be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kelly. We're so glad to learn about this great free resource. I'll put in my own voucher as well that my 7th grader came home and had taken this and just couldn't wait to show me, all of her information and all the things that she learned about herself. And it was really validating and empowering for her. So awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly.
I love that. Well, you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for all you do, and we'll see you later.
Bye-bye. Thank you. All right. Well, we are back on track. So exciting for us. We are going to move next to our In Case You Missed It. This is just when we share some of our announcements and things that have come through your emails from the USBE, as well as a few announcements from the State Charter School Board, just making sure that everything's on your radar where it should be. Again, if you have questions on any of this, feel free to drop those in the chat or to reach out afterwards and we can get you connected as needed. So we have a number of announcements from the USBE. This first one was that they wanted you to know that as part of the professional learning grant, their staff has been asked to administer a pre and post survey to collect some feedback about early literacy and early math professional learning. So if you are applying for the pre-K through 3 professional learning grant, make sure that you are aware of this and that you have planned to give that survey to your staff. You'll see the note there at the bottom. If you did not apply for that professional learning grant for the pre-K through 3, then you can just disregard that information, and that's one thing you can take off your plate. The next one was about 504 coordinator meetings. They've already started, and there's a recording on Google that you can listen to or send to your 504 coordinator. So please make sure that either you've reviewed that or your 504 coordinator has. And then there's a bunch of different meeting minutes and events coming up. And so if you have questions about any of that, it has the contact information there. In that second paragraph, they've announced that their next meeting is October 19th. So a little ways out, you can make sure that that's on your calendar and ready to have representation from your school at those 504 coordinator meetings. Along with that, Title IX sent out their schedule of meetings. There's just one per quarter. You can see them there scheduled for September 28th, November 30th, January 25th, and March 28th. So if you are serving as your Title IX coordinator, or if you have someone else, make sure they are aware of those. Looks like those meetings are just an hour, so that should be a good quick meeting to attend. We also wanted to make you aware from the USBE that there are some free professional learning consultants. As part of that Senate Bill 127, each LEA is able to receive access to free personal professional learning consultants, and they can help you with your science of reading goals. So if that's something that you are interested in, make sure that you are reaching out and we can get you connected with those free professional learning consultants for your teachers. You'll notice that number highlighted there at the bottom. Over 80% of participants have rated their experience so far as an 8 out of 10 or higher. So we've already had our first cohort of LEA leaders go through, and they are finding it to be a very valuable experience. This next one, this was in an official letter that came from Deputy Superintendent Scott Jones. Just a reminder about the October one and the UTREX. So as you can see there from board rule, you are required to have a complete update and finalization of your data with a date of October 1st in the UTREX system, and that has to be done before 5 p.m. on October 10th. So there is that little bit of a window there to make sure that you've corrected technical errors, checked your data quality before you move forward and use that October 1 for your budgeting and your decision-making purposes. The note at the end there, super important, that rule does not allow extensions for UTREX updates beyond the due date. So make sure by October 10th you have everything in there. That is a requirement from our state. Next up, you'll see the LEA compliance assurance, and I know we've talked about this before. This was the assurance that you have to file that you're in compliance with laws governing the delivery of maturation and sex education instruction. And so this is not due until May 31st, on or before then. So you've got the whole year to work on this, but making sure that that's on your radar, that you're following those proper policies and making sure that you'll be able to complete this required assurance survey. If you do need more information on that, you can see at the bottom there, Jody Parker's email. I guess Jody Parker's email is linked in her name, but then her phone number is there as well if there are some questions. We also, looks like last week, you can see the date there from the 7th, there were some concerns about RISE rostering and the data gateway. So if you experienced any issues or outages with that last week, the state is aware of that. I believe that they should be updated, but if you are still having any trouble in accessing those RISE or the data gateway, please reach out and let Kim Rathke know, and she can help take care of that. This one is coming up this week, September 15th. So making sure that your LEA testing plan is turned in. That is due by September 15th. So today's the 11th. You've got a few more days to do that. You can see those 3 points there. We need to have, or your school needs to have the dates that you will administer each statewide assessment, your professional learning, test administration, and then your testing ethics training. So making sure that you get all that turned in by the end of this week. We also wanted to give you a reminder from the USBE that you're building, they're hosting a Building Assessment Connections webinar. And this will be on Thursday, September 28th. You can see the audience there. It's targeted towards assessment directors, ALS directors, special ed directors, curriculum directors, literacy directors. So if you're serving in any of those roles, or if you have people at your school that are serving in those roles, that will most likely be a webinar that you would want to attend. We've got a few more from USBE. Our next one is that our first literacy directors meeting will be on Thursday, September 14th. So again, that's this week, 9 to 12. And they are giving you 2 different options. You could be in person or virtual for that meeting. So again, if you're serving in that role, or if you have someone as a literacy director, make sure that they get that information. Bumping back to 504s, we also wanted you to know that on October 25th, There is another webinar happening, and this one is specific about behavior, discipline, and students with disabilities. They'll be talking about how to plan for their behavior support needs using trauma-informed approaches to help with student behavior, and an introduction to the newest edition of the LRBI manual. And of course, LRBI being the least restrictive behavioral intervention. So please make sure that that's something you're planning on. If you have questions, you can see Sid's email there, and she can help you with registration. This one I know we shared last month, but there are a few dates that are still continuing on, so wanted to just this to your attention again, that there are a bunch of different week trainings coming up. Some of the enrollments close this week or close, next month. So making sure that if you want to sign up for any of those workshops that are listed there in the table, that's on your radar and that you're able to get that completed. This next one that came from the USBE was an opportunity for literacy coaches only. So they are having a free online webinar, and it's all about student-focused coaching, and that happens on October 11th. So if you have a literacy coach, or again, if you're serving in that role, please make sure that you have this on your radar and can get signed up for that student-focused coaching. This one was an exciting one. It's that time of the year for the U.S. Presidential Scholars nominations. Just so that that's on your radar, you have until Thursday, November 9th at 5 p.m. to get that submitted. You can find the links there and other information about what is needed for that U.S. Presidential Scholar nomination. But hopefully we'll have some great representation from our charter schools. And then the last reminder from the Utah State Board of Education is that they have their Wasatch Reading Summit coming up in October. And if you need more information about that, there's a link to their website so that you can get the right people there and the right training happening for your school. Now, from the State Charter School Board, we only have one slide of announcements, so we'll go over those quickly. The first one was survey follow-up. Last month, we sent out a survey to you and asked about any changes we need to make to directors' meetings, if our format is working for you. If you've looked at your calendar invites, you'll notice that there was a change in October and a change in January. And so in October, we'll be meeting on a Tuesday, and in January, we'll actually have our meeting on a Wednesday. That was some information that came back from that survey, especially the January one, where for a lot of you, that is the start of a new semester or, track changes. And so we'll make sure that that one is on a Wednesday in January, so that hopefully more of you can join us. Of course, if you can't, or if your Mondays are what you've only carved out, we will always record and send that out. In the survey, there was the mention that overall people still are preferring to do the online format. So we will plan to keep with that. There were some suggestions about maybe once or twice we could meet in person. And so we're working on that and seeing if there would be an appropriate meeting to pull together in person for that. But overall, the overwhelming majority was to keep with our online meetings here over Zoom. If you remember, before the end of the year last year, we started talking a little bit about GBOT. And if you've been with us for a few years, you might remember GBOT as that governing board online training. We're rebranding that. It won't live in UCAP anymore, but will live through its own separate LMS. And we are planning that in the next week, we should have a video to push out to you that talks about how to access that. The really great thing about this new GBOT is that you have access to over 40,000 trainings. And so that would be information that you can use as a director, that your governing boards can use. And it also has ways that you can start tracking what you've done. One of the first assignments that we're going to push out through there is just that annual OPMA training. And so if you go in then and mark it done, it will remind you, and you won't have to keep that in your radar. It'll just pop up each year when that training is due for you and your team. So we're really excited for that. Watch your inbox. That should be coming in the next week or week and a half. If you've also been following along with our small expansions and our large expansions, we wanted to just give an update on that. Small expansions are being considered this Thursday with the State Charter School Board. So if you turned in an application, please make sure you're tuning in for that. We've already sent out information for you to join up with us. We did have 10 schools that applied for a small expansion. The satellite and large expansion are now lumped together under that board rule. And where we're at with that was that the State Charter School Board went through and updated our process, trying to be as concise as we were with our small expansion, but recognizing that the board rule required a few additional things. We've narrowed that down to 3 pages, asking you for some additional information rather than, I think it was 12 previously. So if that's something that you are looking to apply for, it has moved through the Law and Licensing Committee. That just happened last week and will be heard by the USBE in October. And so pending the outcome of that discussion at the October USBE meeting, we are hoping to then be able to make that application available to you. And hopefully we'll have good news when we meet together in October, and that those applications will be available for you then. And then the last one that we wanted to draw your attention to was, again, directors meeting in October. It will be on a Tuesday. So same time, same place. We'll be here on Zoom, 12:30 to 3:30, but it will be on Tuesday, October 10th. We did have, that's one that the UAPCS is leading the training session for us. And so Shannon was so great and sent over a little teaser video that we could show and let you know kind of what to expect for that meeting. So let me make sure that that is still sharing. So sorry. So we've got a little video here that will introduce that topic and hopefully get you excited for that October training together. So I will hit play and we'll watch this little teaser video.
Greetings, charter school administrators. My name is Nathan Curitan, and I've been asked to provide some professional development for you at an upcoming state charter school board meeting and another meeting thereafter. And I was asked to provide just a little video of a personal introduction to myself and the content that we will be reviewing at that training. So again, my name is Nathan Curitan, and for almost 2 decades, I have been a charter school educator, both as a teacher and a school administrator. I've also done some work at the university level. And I have for many years been providing professional development services for schools for both teachers and school leaders throughout the region. I've trained thousands of teachers. It's been great. I'm also an author, and my book is entitled Empowered. It's been a university required text at Utah State University for graduating teachers. And recently, my company has been acquired by a larger consulting firm named Innovation Z, who has a remarkable reputation in Utah and the surrounding states for providing services for schools on a variety of levels, including training for teachers, school leaders, boards, there's much services that they provide. Now, specifically to the training that we will be having at the State Charter School Board meeting, I've been asked to provide some professional development on how to create a school and classroom culture of success based upon 4 time-tested, proven principles on doing so. Do you know, have you ever noticed how you walk into a school and almost immediately you get a vibe? There's a sense, there's this culture in the school that you can get a sense of almost immediately. Do you like the culture in your school? Is it positive? Do you have some tweaking you might like to do to it? Even if you have a marvelous school culture, which I'm confident most of you do, we could always improve, right? That's our quest as educators, to always be better for the students we serve. Thus, I would like to discuss with you 4 principles of creating a classroom and a school culture of success. You, as school leaders, your number one priority is to be an instructional leader, both a model and a leader. And so what are these principles we're going to discuss? Number 1 is raise expectations, right? Increasing the rigor in classrooms for students and performance expectations for teachers in their classrooms. Number 2, strengthen relationships. How can we create a cord of trust that binds teacher to student as well as administrator to teacher, where there's this trust, where we can move all upward towards those high expectations? Principle 3 is to motivate from within. We sit upon a mountain of research that often goes ignored in public education, how we should motivate from within in intrinsic motivation instead of using carrots and sticks or extrinsic motivators to try to bribe or coerce our students and teachers in the right direction. No, we should motivate from within. We'll look at some of that research together. And number 4 is reinforce the positive. This is a beautiful behavior management strategy for teachers to use with students, and as well as administrators to apply principles to your own leadership in your school. I very much look forward to spending some time with you at the State Charter School Board meeting and hopefully in subsequent meetings thereafter. Thanks so much.
All right, well, we're looking forward to that. Hopefully you are as well. And just a reminder there that in case you had missed it, that we have every other month, we'll have a training from UAPCS, and they'll be bringing in some great folks, just like you saw in that video. And then on our other months, on our odd months, we'll have training coming in from Ed Directions. And so I know that they are here right now. And so we will turn the time over to them. So Katie, take it away.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Marie. We're super excited to be here. While I kind of kick us off, Marie, can you give Devin co-hosting privileges so she can help run behind the scenes tech for us?
Yep, just did. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, we are super excited, and Devin, as soon as you can, if you want to share our screen, but we are going to come together and we are going to talk a couple of times throughout the year, like Marie said, every other month on the odd months, and we are going to be focused on student-centered leadership and how this connects to the science behind human behaviors. So as we jump through this, you'll see that this week we're just kind of doing an overview of student-centered leadership and the science behind human behavior. And then in November, we are going to jump into a little bit more in depth and talk about the perceptual control theory and how we can create shared references for successful classroom visits. And then in January, we're going to continue going down this path, and we're going to talk about creating needs-satisfying school environments by providing feedback to teachers. In March, we'll jump into positions of control and open to learning conversations, and end the year in May with some power of self-reflection and how all that goes together. So it's going to be very well linked to the other professional learnings that you get this year. If you heard from the other presenter just earlier in that video, they're talking a lot about culture and student learning environments and instructional leadership and moving the dial in that facet. For today, we have a very fantastic special guest presenter who's going to join us today, along with myself, and his name is Charlie Lyons, and he is an expert behind all this science behind human behavior and cultures and references, and he is just a guru of all of that. So he is going to take it away for a little bit, and then I'll follow up at the tail end as well with some science of instructional leadership for today. So Charlie, I'm going to go ahead and pass the buck to you.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much, Katie, for turning it over. Ironically enough, can anyone see my face on the camera right now? You see a beautiful background, and my face was showing up a second ago. So let me see here if I can do something different or not. If not, I'm going to go ahead and start with my story without my face and hope something gets fixed. So Katie, if you don't mind switching over to the next slide. As Katie said, we're going to talk a little bit about human motivation and human behavior, and it's really hard. This is a topic of mine that I am extremely passionate about. It's really kind of what I built my whole career around, and it's kind of tough, I think, for me to do it without seeing the humans that I'm talking to. So I was trying to figure out how best to explain this phenomenon. And the other day I was moving. It's always been a dream of my wife and I to have a little place in the mountains. I'm from the mountains of North Carolina. And so we have actually decided to buy a little place up in the mountains. And I was moving that place, as you see, in this beautifully packed trailer on this slide right here. And I was, as you can tell, in desperate need of some nice ratchet straps, right? Some of those strong, thick ratchet straps. And of course, the only one I had was this huge tangled up cobweb of a mess, right? And so I'm sitting there trying to untangle this thing. It's like 500 feet long, and I'm pulling on the little tangle, trying to get it untangled. And I have no idea if I'm pulling on the right part. Has anybody ever tried to untangle something that's really long and you don't know if you're pulling on the right part or not, right? And so then I would try to untangle a little bit more and I'd pull a little bit more. I was like, and is anything I'm doing actually helping? Is it actually making any sense at all? And so 2 hours later, I'm still trying to untangle this rope. And somewhere in that 2 hours, I actually thought of you guys. I actually thought about Monday, and I actually thought about my friends in charter seminars. And I thought, it's kind of the same thing. If I'm sitting here talking to a bunch of people and I can't see their faces, I have no idea if what I'm doing is working or not. I have no idea if the little string that I'm pulling on is actually making any sense or not, or if I'm just wasting my time pulling the wrong piece of the knot. So I don't know if that story makes any sense to you, but it made sense in my head on Friday. And I wanted to share. And I also wanted to share that even though I'm now 44 years old and I've spent more than 23 years in education, I still pack my trailer like a college student, right? I mean, could that be any more of an 18-year-old packed trailer than what you're seeing right there? I made it though. I made it. We survived. It was good. So the first activity that we're going to jump into before we even begin our conversation about human motivation is a fun little activity with the end goal of hopefully getting our group to see your faces a little bit better. And this activity is called That's Me. You can use it live in person if you want to use it with your staff, but this is the virtual version, okay? How we're going to do this is I'm going to say a phrase, and if that phrase pertains to you, you're going to turn your camera on and do a little dance and do a little That's Me dance, okay? You can make up your dance however you want, okay? We're not judging your dancing ability. We're just judging your ability to turn your camera on and do a little dance, okay? If the statement pertains to you. Everybody understand the rules? All right, here we go. So the first one will start easy. I work in the state of Utah. Okay, all right. All right, look at all these cameras. Here they come. And I like the smiling faces too, Jake. I appreciate you. All right. The rope is working a little bit with Jake. That's good to see. That's good to see. Okay. All right. Cameras off because we didn't quite get everybody to turn their cameras on that time, even though I'm pretty sure we all work in Utah. So I'm going to try something different. I brushed my teeth this morning. Yes. All right. Now they're all coming on. Yes. Katrina brushed her teeth. Thank you, Katrina. We wouldn't know. That's one good thing about the virtual world. We wouldn't know if you didn't. So, all right. So now we're going back to a couple more. I prefer M&Ms over Skittles. All right. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. All right. Camera's back off. I have kids of my own. Yes, Peter. All right. Okay, camera's back off. I have pets. Awesome. All right. I don't have any time for kids or pets. Is that Floyd? Steve.
I do have time for kids. I don't have time for pets.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Okay, this will be fun. I've been in education for more than 5 years. All right. More than 15 years. Okay, keep your camera on. More than 15-year people. All right, more than 20 years. All right, getting down. More than 30. Oh. All right, getting down to the few and the proud here. All right, Steve, how many years have you been around?
31.
31. Okay. Floyd, you haven't beat?
36.
Oh, all right. And Brett, how many do you have?
82. I started.
82. Okay. All right. Brett wins. All right. Awesome.
Floyd's got the gray hair. I just lost all my hair.
You just lost it like yesterday, right? Like, I mean, it just happened. Yeah. All right. I would rather you text me than call me. A little less than half of us. A little less than half of us. All right. I'd rather call than text. Okay. No, just Stephen Floyd still. Maybe that has something to do with being working over 30 years. You just get tired of texting, maybe. Maybe there's a correlation there. All right. It doesn't matter if you text me or call me, I'm not going to respond. Nobody? Oh, Carrie's going to be honest. Good job, Carrie Ann. All right. Okay, last one. I'm excited to learn more about human motivation and excited about these sessions. Yay. Woo-hoo. All right, good. All right, so if you choose, you can keep your camera on for the next step of the conversation. I do enjoy seeing you, and I also enjoy hearing anybody. So at any moment, if you have questions or you want to jump in and add something, feel free to do so or drop it into the chat. But we're going to start with just a real quick conversation about our work together as a team. So that first activity is really just to get us kind of warmed up and thinking about it. I've been a leader of a school. I've led elementary schools, I've led middle schools, I've led high schools, and I know that you have a lot of choices of things that you could be doing right now, right? There are a million things on your to-do list, and even though you'll knock off 1,000 of them today, 2,000 more will be added to your to-do list. I get that. So Katie and I kind of want to know, why in the world would you choose to be here? And what is it that you would hope to be getting out of our time together that we're going to spend, not just today, but we're going to have a series of about five sessions or so. What is it that you're hoping that you can get out? When you decided, out of the millions of things that you could be doing, to log on today, why did you do that? Anybody feel free to come off mute or drop something in chat if you have something you would want to add to that question. And then we're good. Good, Steve.
Yeah. So for me, a couple things. One is when I get really busy, I think it's easy to sort of get mired in the just the work of your day. And while that's easy to do, I also find it helpful to talk to people and with people who are kind of doing the same kind of work, and whether it's commiseration or whether it's getting ideas from each other, I think it's important to step out of that once in a while, even though it's hard to do, and kind of look at the big picture. So that's one of the things I really enjoy about getting together with this group of people.
Awesome. Great example. So we've just dropped a link in the chat, and this is a Jamboard. And so we want you to add to that Jamboard any other thoughts about what, like similar to what Steve just shared, about why you've decided to log on, take a break out of your day to learn from each other. And then also, what do we need in order to maximize our time together? How do we need to be able to treat one another? What do we need to be able to think about to make sure that we actually get whatever it was that you decided you wanted when you decided to log in? So these Jamboards you can click on and just type in some thoughts. Since there's 60 of us, we want to all be able to share out loud. So this Jamboard's a way for us all to hopefully get some thoughts and ideas together on paper. So just take 2 or 3 minutes and add your thoughts there.
It also seems like we already have some Jamboard pros that are just like getting in there. But if you need a quick Jamboard tutorial, if you click over here where it looks like a little sticky note, it'll create this little sticky note that you can type in, you can choose what color it is, and then save it, and it'll populate on there, and you can use up here to go back and forth between the 2 boards.
All right, so seeing some great thoughts already. We're going to continue with the rest of our conversation, but one of the reasons we put this as a link on the Jamboard is if there's more things that you want to add to this or that you think about along the way, then go back in there and jump in there and add them. What our goal is we're going to take the themes that you guys are adding into this Jamboard and create kind of what we call a brief operating agreement. And what we mean by that is how are we going to treat each other as we do this work together? While we have just a small amount of time together, we really want to make sure we maximize it. We really want to make sure you guys get the most out of it. And so the pieces that you're adding into the Jamboard will allow us to see things like actively participating, respecting, hard work, whatever it is you guys are adding in there. We can take that and create a brief operating agreement, and we'll bring that back to you guys at our next session as kind of a way of kicking off and making sure that it's something that we all can agree to hold each other accountable for and really live into as we do our work together this year. So turning it back over to you, Katie, for the next thing. I know you were typing. You got to unmute though.
I was talking. I just needed to find my mute button. I had a few too many screens open trying to multitask, which should be one of our operating agreements, not to multitask. So we're going to do a fun activity that allows us to connect a little bit more with our colleagues while also participating and practicing some of these operating agreements. So as we move out, we're going to send you to breakout rooms in just a minute. But when we do, we would love for you to turn your cameras on and actively engage in these breakout rooms. Now, when we send you to your breakout room, here's what we want you to do. We want you to grab something off your desk. You are not allowed to leave your chair. You're not allowed to leave your room. It has to be something within arm's reach of yourself, okay? And you're going to grab that something, and then when you get into our breakout rooms, you are going to introduce yourself, what school you work with, a little bit about you, and then explain your object that you grabbed. And you're going to have to tie that a little bit to what you grabbed and how it reflects who you are and how you engage in education. So tying it back to who you are and how you engage in education with that little thing. So for example, I would grab this little, I don't know if you can see him, he's a little turtle right here who sits on my desk every day. And he reflects who I am because my daughter gave him to me on her first vacation she ever went outside of our family. So she went on this little vacay alone with her boyfriend and brought it back because we always bring back souvenirs for our kids. Oh, so she brought us back this fun little souvenir. So it kind of connects to me because it's her first year of stepping out on her own. And when she brought it back and she gave it to me, she had this whole story and this light up in her eyes. And it was just kind of this big aha moment of how she was growing up and coming into her own. And it reminded me of that light going off in students' minds of when something kind of clicks and they kind of get what they're doing and why they're doing it, and they're coming into their own. And so it reminds me of why I do the work that I do, which is why I have it right here on my desk, to help inspire people and teach them and have them have those little aha moments like she had when she went on her first little adult vacation. So with that, we're going to send you into breakout rooms. Again, steps are 1, introduce yourselves, who you are, where you work, and then 2, grab an item within arm's reach and explain how that item relates to you and how it relates to your ideas behind education. And then we'll come back together in about 8 minutes. All right, Devin, will you send us to breakout rooms? Okay, here we go.
You should have gotten like a little thing that pops up that says like, you're in room whatever. So if you have not yet joined your room, find that little popper thing or come off mute and let me know that you haven't found it, and I will help you find it. Is there anyone here in the main room that thinks they should be in a room and would like to be in a room, but is not yet in a room? Okay, let me see, Melanie. It says it invited you. Let's see if I can re-invite you somewhere.
It put me in room 7, but then no one else was in there.
Oh, wonderful. I'm going to move you to a room where people are. Melanie, did ask you to move to room 9? Okay, great.
Thanks.
Devin, I just sent you a Teams message. All right, Devin, are they all returning? I saw some beautiful faces flashing back in. Are they all back?
No, they are returning. They have not all returned.
Zoom's working on it, huh?
Well, they haven't been totally kicked out yet, I don't think. So if they're still talking, they still get to talk.
Oh, okay. Got you.
And hopefully we all like each other and we're talking.
I'm seeing more faces, so this is exciting. This is good news.
Yeah, we're just about back now.
All right. Awesome. So,
Sentence, like always.
what's that?
That always closes right in the middle of a sentence.
Sorry, Katie. It does it on purpose, just for you. So one thing I read as you guys were typing stuff in the Jamboard was really wanting to maximize this opportunity to collaborate. So hopefully this was the start. Just getting to know each other a little bit better and introduce each other, hopefully will begin to help us meet that goal of collaboration. There are a few other things that you have already stated as far as the operating agreement and how we want to treat each other as far as being present, actively participating, keeping an open mind. So just quickly reflect for yourself how you did in that little activity for those 8 minutes as you were listening to your colleagues share about a random item on their desk, how you did with living into this agreement. Were you present? Did you actively participate? Did you keep an open mind? If you did, pat yourself on the back. Good job. Good job. You're already living into your operating agreement. You're already getting what you want out of these sessions. So hope that helps. That was one reason why we did it. Like Katie said, we wanted to give you a chance just to already start practicing the way you want to treat each other as we learn together. The other reason was to start the conversation around human motivation and human engagement. And we know that we can't really go far into that conversation without understanding a little bit about the brain and how the brain works, because that's kind of the central operating system of the rest of our human system, right? So one thing that we've been trying to do intentionally over the last 15 or 20 minutes is get the brain energy where it needs to be so that we can even learn together. Because now that we've got the technology we have, over the last 10 years or so, we have learned an enormous amount about how the brain actually works on a neurochemical level, on a microscopic biological level. We now know which pieces of the brain need to be ignited and engaged in order for us to learn versus those pieces of the brain that need to be engaged in order for us to protect ourselves. We know a whole lot more about the brain. So real quick overview, if whoever's controlling can show the prefrontal cortex of your brain. Now, we all know your brain is not a 2D object, right? It's a 3D object. So everybody hold your fist up like this. See how that looks like a brain? Right? Okay, so before you make your fist, put your thumb on the inside of it so that you have a brain looking like this, okay? So your prefrontal cortex is going to be up here towards the middle part of your knuckles. That's the prefrontal cortex. If energy's in that part of your brain, then you're doing your executive functioning, you're learning, you're creative, you're collaborative, you're able to come up with new solutions to old problems. All of those things happen when energy is in the prefrontal cortex of your brain. There has to be certain neurochemicals firing in order for that part of your brain to be ignited. The one that we think about a lot is called oxytocin. Anybody heard of oxytocin? Okay, that's the happy chemical, right? Oxytocin fires when you get a like on your Facebook page. When someone retweets your really creative video, you get a like on that, oxytocin fires. When people smile at you, oxytocin fires. When people are smiling and nodding and listening to what you have to say, oxytocin fires. We know that when people are doing silly little dances and you see one of your colleagues do something that makes you laugh, oxytocin fires. Those are the things that we need in order to get that prefrontal cortex going, okay? Now, put that fist back up, okay? If you flip your lid, so all you can see is the thumb here, this region on the inner part, the limbic region of your brain, right about where your thumb is the emotional region, okay? That's where your emotions live, and those are important. We need emotions. We need sadness, we need happiness, we need all the emotions in order to help us inform our decisions. However, We don't want to just be living up in our feelings if we're trying to collaborate and problem solve. That's not necessarily the time to be all up into our limbic region. Okay. Sitting around on the porch having a conversation with our girlfriends, maybe a good time to all be all up in our feelings, right? But what we want to do is get that oxytocin firing, moving things to the prefrontal cortex. Okay. The opposite direction, the down regulating direction, is when you start getting back to your brainstem or the wrist in this little example, the brainstem area or the amygdala. Okay. And the neurochemical that's firing with the amygdala is cortisol. You may have heard of that. It's the fear hormone. It's a very important hormone. It's a natural neurochemical that we need, especially back in the day when we lived in a cave and there were saber-toothed tigers trying to attack us. We needed these fear hormones, right? Because it senses danger and it tells us that we need to do something. Okay. But think about it. If we're in a learning environment, if we're in a collaborative environment, do we want a bunch of cortisol firing and a bunch of fear hormones firing versus having that oxytocin firing? Because what we know is if too much cortisol drips, too much fear is happening, the amygdala will actually fully engage and hijack the rest of your brain. And we call that the amygdala hijack. And when that happens, there's no thinking. There's no creativity. It's fight, flight, freeze, or appease, right? We're either flying out of here, we're fighting somebody, we're freezing up, or we're just smiling and nodding and appeasing, right? That's the one that educators are really good at, that appeasing one, okay? So what we want to do, if we're really leaning into this idea of leading by understanding human motivation, student-centered leadership based on human motivation, one of the first things we need to really do is lean into an understanding of the brain, thinking about what can we do to ignite as much oxytocin in my own brain and also those that I'm leading around me so that I can really get this collaboration, creativity, and learning going. All right. There's just a nice little drawing. I didn't make up the fist thing by myself. That was actually a Dan Siegel model. And so that's just a little picture there giving him some credit as you think about the different regions and the different areas of the brain. Any top of mind questions before we go to the next thing? I did that good of a job, huh? All right. So if there are no questions, just think and reflect. What's one thing happening in my building and at my charter school that's firing people's oxytocin? What's something I know that's going on in our building that's getting the oxytocin flowing? And maybe what's something going on in our building that's getting some cortisol flowing? And what can we do to fix that? Okay. That can be your little cognitive thought that you're thinking about right now. All right. Next slide.
Hey, we are going to engage again in another little breakout room activity. And congratulations to all of you with your cameras on, because you just won an all expense paid trip to anywhere in the world. But there's a little catch. You have to take somebody with you who has been a leader in your life. This could be a former teacher, it could be a coach, it could be a boss, it could be a mentor, anybody who's really impacted you and your leadership. And in your breakout rooms, we would love for you to share who you're taking with you and why you choose to take them with you on this trip to anywhere in the world. Okay, so get ready to turn your cameras on. We're going to send you to breakout rooms. You're going to have 10 minutes to come back to share out. So give everybody about 3 or 4 minutes to share, and then we'll come back together at roughly 2:45.
And if you need to use some of your expenses to raise this person from the grave, if they are no longer with us, you can do that. Okay. That's part of this fun scenario. All right, go ahead.
Love it.
All right, we back. For some reason I can't quite see if everybody's back or not.
We're almost back. We're missing, we're almost back. In
Yeah.
15 seconds, everyone will be forced to be back. Three, two, one. Everyone's back.
Meeting is
All right, so would love for one brave soul to come off mute and share their person. And I want us all to listen intentionally about the characteristics of this person. So who did you take on your trip with you? The former leader in your life that impacted you, and why? Who wants to share?
I will.
All right.
So my name is Melanie Kirk. I'm up at Thomas Edison Charter School, and I took a gentleman named Eldon Budge, who was the principal before me and actually got me into the charter world. But the characteristics that he had were just that he taught me to be a better person, that he made me want to be a quality leader. And he did it by example, just in how much he loved the teachers and the students and listened to the parents. Just somebody that was always caring and thoughtful and truly wanted to lead from his heart and be the best person that he could. So what an awesome mentor for me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. One more, let me hear from one more person.
I'll go ahead.
Awesome.
So I chose a man by the name of Matt Culberson, who was a middle school dean when I started teaching, and he, I told my group that I was with, he was someone I wanted to be like when I grew up. I just admired him as a person, and his, I think he was a very, very ethical person, and he was direct. He listened to people. He got people together, and we collaborated with him. He didn't dictate to us what we did, but we worked together to make decisions. And he was also very direct, and also he lived a life both in school and out of school that I admired, and the things he did. He was an adventurer, and he just he liked to push himself physically and mentally. He was a philosophy teacher, and I just loved the way he thought and the way he talked with people and the kinds of conversations that he would engage us in were always interesting. So
awesome. So I heard almost some of the exact words that are in the chart that I'm getting ready to show you. That is based on some research from Judith Glaser, who, the great thing about Judith Glaser is all of her information is free and can be used however you want to use it. If you look up Judith Glaser, Glaser, or if you search conversational intelligence, you can get a wealth of really good information. But what she put together in this little chart, if you can go to the next slide, is things that we have learned about leadership styles that stimulate oxytocin versus things that stimulate cortisol. And most likely the people that you guys shared as one of the people that you would take with you on the trip was somebody that would be stimulating a lot of oxytocin, right? Is a leader that meant so much to you that you thought of them when you were thinking about somebody that's made a real impact on your leadership style. And again, some of the exact words that Steve just shared, he mentioned the word dictating, right? Dictating's on this chart as something that actually, when you look at a brain and what's going on with the energy in a brain, when someone is being dictated to, cortisol is firing, right? The energy is moving towards that fear region of the brain versus someone that is more collaborative, someone that's asking questions. I heard Melanie mention the word listening, right? That listening requires that we ask good questions and then that we listen as opposed to just being told and being dictated to. Excluding versus including. Judging someone versus valuing somebody. So putting all this judgment, I think it's this way, I see it this way, versus valuing somebody. Withholding information versus sharing information. This one, I think of a leader all the time that I had that was a assistant superintendent when I was a principal. And every idea I would come up with, she would always say, well, Charlie, I don't know about that idea. You haven't thought about everything. And then she would just stop, right? Now, there's some things you don't know, Charlie. Well, what don't I know, right? She's like withholding information. And as she's withholding this information, that cortisol is just dripping, right? Versus trying to provide information, share information. And then that kind of stimulates the oxytocin. Micromanaging versus collaborating, criticizing versus celebrating, punishing versus empowering, enabling and guilting versus developing people. So as you think about yourself as a leader and you think about those who have had impact on you as a leader, this hopefully could be a little bit of a helpful reference guide and thinking about what am I doing as I lead my school? What am I encouraging my teachers to do? What am I encouraging my students to do as we create a culture in the school that really lines up more with this facilitator leadership style that we know now that we can, like I said, hook all these machines up to our brains, we actually can see is stimulating that oxytocin and creating that situation where we can really learn and collaborate and be creative together. Katie?
Unanimous. Thank you, Charlie. So we're going to shift gears a little bit, and then I promise we're going to bring it all back together. But we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about student-centered leadership. And we're going to kind of talk about this framework that was created by Vivian Robinson. And I'm sure most of you have heard of Vivian Robinson, but for those of you who may not, Vivian Robinson conducted extensive research with a group of her colleagues and her team, and they did a meta-analysis of about 30 different school studies, and they focused on this idea of instructional leadership, and they identified 5 dimensions and 3 capabilities of how to have this student-centered leadership and have everything that we're doing from the leadership standpoint actually affect students' learning and growth. So she looked at this and she developed 5 dimensions. I already mentioned those. And she gave them an effect size similar to John Hattie's effect size. And so as you look at these and we go through them, we've got our effect size there. And just know the effect size is on the same scale as John Hattie, right? So if you hit a 0.4, that is roughly a year's worth of student growth that you're affecting. And the higher up you go, the more effect you're having on student learning. If you have about a 0.2 effect size, you're affecting student learning in a positive way, just not quite at that full year's worth of growth. So those 5 leadership dimensions, you've got ensuring an orderly and safe environment. We've got leading, teacher learning and developing, ensuring quality teaching, resourcing strategically, and establishing goals and expectations. Of all the things that school leaders do, which there are millions of, you guys wear 9,000 different hats every single day. These are the main 5 that contribute towards student-centered learning and growth. But she didn't stop there. As she delved into these, she also identified 3 different learning or leadership capabilities. These are the how you do what you're doing. So think about the leadership dimensions are what you're doing, and these are the 5 things that you're always doing. And then these capabilities are kind of how we do things and how we go about what we're doing. And those are applying relevant knowledge. How are we using what we already know to establish goals and expectations moving forward? How are we going to apply our problem-solving skills to make sure that we've got a safe and orderly environment for our students? And then we've got our building relational trust. So through the course of this series that we're going to be with you guys for the year, we are going to draw a connection between 2 specific one capability and one dimension. We are going to tie that to leading and learning teacher development and building relational trust, and how we use these two components of the framework to really push student learning to the next level. So through this, we're going to explore topics like, how do we have effective classroom observations? How do we provide feedback to teachers? How do we engage in open to learning conversations by building this relational trust, which is tied directly to how the human brain works and how and why we do what we do, and pulling on that oxytocin rather than that cortisol to keep that learning environment where we want it to be and where we want to move forward. So kind of thinking about how we're going to go about that, and we're going to move forward in this idea of instructional leadership through building relational trust. Think about what we've done today. Devin, if you want to go to our next slide. And I want you to reflect for a minute. So we're going to give you 2 minutes of quiet time, which is going to feel like forever, I know. But I want you to think about these two things. And then I would love 3 people to share out with the whole group. But the first one was, how have we, as your instructional leaders today, intentionally designed this session to, 1, build relational trust with you and for you to develop relational trust with others? And 2, did it work? Is what we're doing kind of moving in the right direction? And how do you feel about moving and learning with us in the future? So I'm going to give us 2 minutes starting now, just of some quiet reflection time to think through that and what we've learned today. Hey, if you want to turn your cameras back on and come back together, we would love to hear just your thoughts from 3 of you today about instructional leadership and intentionally designing this to build relational trust. Who would be willing to share?
I really like what you did, getting us kind of moving around in the beginning, kind of waking us up and having some fun with us with an activity, and also I think the story of the move was helpful. My camera was off, and when that nudge happened, I kind of like, yeah, I need to get my camera on. So.
Thank you, Steve. I love that. That was the purpose of it. So we're glad that that was helpful. 2 more people would be willing to share. Even if your camera's not on, we'd love to hear from you.
I just think every time we do this and we have the training, I'm reminded we don't see each other very often. We don't know each other. And so we always tend to spend the time introducing ourselves, learning about one another, and then we have very little time to work on the task at hand. Just an observation.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. One more brave soul. I know there's one more of you out there. We have really good wait time.
I just put in the
Oh.
chat, Katie, I was just glad to hear my story work because it was true that I was thinking about you guys while untangling a ratchet strap, but had no idea if the story would make any sense to anybody or not. So, hey, success.
Woohoo! Thank you, Charlie, for taking up at the end. All right, so as we come to a close, we just want to give you a preview. In November, we're going to come back together and talk about some perceptual control theory. And Charlie's going to join us again and dive into that a little bit more. And it's all about creating this shared reference for success in classroom visits. So come back, you're going to want to know about that. And then in January, we're going to jump into a need satisfying school environment, March, positions of control and open to learning conversations. And then we're going to end out the year with the power of self-evaluation. So we're super excited for that. And before you sign off for today, we would love for your feedback. And if you would go in and take our feedback survey to help us continue to learn and grow and get better and all that we try to do in the service of learning for students and student growth, we would love that. And from there, if we're going to wait, are there any questions, comments, concerns? And if not, we'll pass the time back to Marie.
Thank you so much. All right, well, hopefully we'll get some good feedback for our presenters today. And other than that, we are finished with our meeting. So thank you for being here. I'll go ahead and stop recording. And